Today, I'm going to show you how to restore an old light fixture. This is what they looked like before. I almost passed on these fixtures because they were odd looking, but they had qualities that I felt would work in my space. First, you'll want to disassemble all of the parts and make sure they're clean. Then I just take a gold spray paint. You can use any paint. The gold is going to add the depth underneath the copper colors that we'll be adding next. Once the gold paint is dry, I then use a hammered copper paint. I apply a very light coat because I don't want to cover up the gold underneath. I want it to show through a little and give some depth to the piece. I'm also not a huge fan of the actual hammered look of the paint, so applying a light coat keeps it from bubbling up. Next up, I'll use an antique dark copper spray paint. Now this I'm going to keep just around the edges of the fixture. I want to keep that lighter center of the hammered copper intact because this is really give it a lot of depth and create that sort of ombre effect that a lot of the older fixtures have. So just carefully spray around the edges and let the paint sort of mist in and blend. And you can see here after you do the hammered copper paint, and then I did a antique or a dark antique copper paint just around the edges. It gives it that kind of ombre look and just gives a lot of depth to it. So this is kind of what they used to do with the polychrome fixtures way back in the day. I then used gold leaf rub and buff to highlight the raised areas on the fixture and around the frame. Now it's time to get the wires through the fixture. This can be very tricky, but I use a paper tape that's very sticky and some strong cord. I wrap it around so it tapers, and this will make it a lot easier to pull through the fixture. Now for the fun part. We need to get that string to go through the fixture so we can pull the wires. Use your vacuum and then insert the string through one opening. The suction of the vacuum will pull the string through, and then you'll be able to pull the wires through. This next part can be a bit difficult depending on your fixture. This particular fixture gave me a bit of trouble because the tube on the inside was a bit rough. Now I was very careful to pull firmly, but not so hard to pull the string off of the wires. You can also use a lubricant like WD-40 to help it slide through more easily. Now it's time to reassemble our light fixture. So we're going to put the parts on in the opposite order that we had taken them off. So this particular fixture was missing something that would hold the bobèche down. I used a piece of copper flashing and was able to make a little ring that I could push down in between the glass and the little bar that the bobèche sits over to hold it in place firmly. It's better than it's ever been. It stays so nice and firm now, and it was an easy fix. Next up, I'm replacing the candle cup holder. So I'll just gently slip that on there, and it will sit directly over that piece of copper that I just put in to hold the bobèche in place. Then I'll slip on a brass hex nut, and this is going to secure that candle cup and everything so that it won't move anymore. This was something that wasn't done before on the original fixtures, and so everything kind of wobbled around. And sadly, that was all original, but now it's going to be a much better light fixture. Look how beautifully this stays in place now. It's so nice and firm, and I'm so happy with the way this is coming out. This is what it used to look like, and you can see that the glass bobèche would just wobble and move all over the place. It was horrible. Now I'm going to install brand new candle sockets. These are Edison based, which means they take a normal sized bulb. These are not the candelabra size. So now what I want to do is I want to fish it through the hole in the bottom, the two wires, just to make sure they don't get tangled as we're tightening this up. Now, I've seen some people go ahead and wire their socket first and then run everything through the fixture. But that's pretty dangerous because, as you can see, when you're screwing it in, you take a chance of twisting the wires so tight that they could break. So it's better to put it on in this order and then wire your fixture after. Now it's time to finally wire the socket. We're going to take the black wire, which is the hot wire, and attach it to the gold contact. I'm using these special wire stripping tools, and it has a built-in gauge, and I know it's 18 gauge wire, so I line it up in that hole, give it a little twist, and then the plastic insulation should come right off. I like to leave a little more than a ½ inch of the wire exposed. You're just going to twist it and then bend it over into sort of a little loop. You'll want to go ahead and attach this to the gold contact. So you want it going around to the right of the socket. And the reason why you want to do this is so that as you tighten it, it's going to grab and it's going to pull that wire in. So you want to make sure that you don't put the loop facing the left. You want it facing over to the right. So it's going up and over to the right. So you're just going to tighten it. Now I pull the excess black wire through the top and I just leave a little slack. Now we continue with the white wire. So the white wire is your neutral wire and it will attach to the silver contact. Again, we're going to repeat the process and take our wire strippers in the 18 gauge hole, and we're just simply going to go ahead and clamp down again just a little bit more than a ½ inch down, give it a little twist, and then we're going to go ahead and just pull that little bit of insulation right off. Again, we're going to twist the wire into a loop, and we're going to wrap this around the wire, around the contact. Again, we want this going in a clockwise direction. So we want it to go to the right. And so when we tighten with the screwdriver, as you're tightening, it's actually going to grab that wire and pull it in. So make sure you don't do it the other way. You really want to, this is super important. Now we'll take that excess white wire and we'll pull it gently up through the top again and just leaving a little slack. Next, we'll add the paper insulator. This insulator came with the candle socket. It's super important to use. You simply slip it down and lock in place. This will help to keep you from getting shocked if there should be an issue with the fixture. I picked up these cardboard candle covers online, and they really add that beautiful antique touch to the fixture. You just slip it on and you're ready to go. Now it's time to finish up this fixture by adding back the decorative backplate. It's super easy to put on. We're just going to slip the wires through, and then it's going to be attached with a gold brass hex nut. Now you'll see there's holes in the bottom where there used to be switches. I've opted not to replace those because these sconces will be on each side of a bathtub. So I'm going to use a bracket cap and a little piece of pipe and a hex nut to hold that in place and cover up that hole. And there you have it. Beautiful antique and vintage fixtures that have been lovingly restored. If you've been wanting to rewire and restore a fixture, give it a try. It's not as hard as it looks, and you'll be so happy you did.